Hi folks, today we're chatting to Garry Jacobson, V8 Supercars driver for Matt Stone Racing. We'll find out what it's like being behind a computer screen versus the racetrack and waking up with toothpaste on his eye. This plus much more on Legends with Bevo.
Hi everyone, this is V8 Supercar driver Garry Jacobson here, and you're watching Legends with Bevo.
Welcome to Legends with Bevo, thanks to the Holdy, Coopers and Anytime Fitness Glenelg.
Garry Jacobson from Matt Stone Racing, great to have you on Legends with Bevo again, mate. How are you at the moment?
Yeah, good. We're going 3 for 3 now, maybe, I think it is. So, yeah, I always love having a chat with you, and I'm representing the Adelaide people. I've got the tail and bend beanie on, trying to fit with the hot conditions and the cool conditions.
Looking good, mate. And, of course, you've spoken to the bend to make it black and yellow, I reckon, as well. That must be a stitch-up, surely, being a Tigers fan.
As you know, Bevo, I'm a fanatic Richmond supporter. I'm on the up at the moment. We're still favourites, aren't we, to win this year's premiership? I don't know about you Port Adelaide supporters. We're a bit scared of you. We don't want to play you in the final next week if we can afford it. But,
I love it how all year we've been like top of the ladder, and no one talks about us as a premiership favourite. It's all about you guys at Richmond there. So
the classic Collingwobbles thing that everybody thinks you might get. You're on the top of the ladder all year, and then, you know, Collingwood, when they were up and about and they'd miss out on, I think they used to play the Brisbane Lions a lot in the grand final and get the Collywobbles. We need to come up with a name for Port Adelaide to get into your head.
Exactly. Now, most importantly, we better get on to racing, and obviously we're back at the Bend last weekend and we had those couple of races, and again, it's all happening again this weekend. How'd it go on the weekend, mate?
Oh, drama, wasn't it? We had lots of different weather conditions. We had a bit of rain, lots of cloud cover, which always makes a racetrack very high grip and fast. And then we had no clouds and lots of UV with all that sunlight on the track. So the mechanics and the engineers were running around frantic all weekend trying to keep the race car drivers happy. But the main thing is I think that we've got a lot of learning under our belt for next weekend. So whatever weather conditions come at us, we've got a plan for it this time. And in terms of the racing, we managed to get a 13th in the last race, which was good for me. I think it's a pretty solid improvement considering the results I was getting last year in the Nissan Altima. I'm in the Holden this year in a different team, and the expectations is to be in the top 15. And we ticked that box again this weekend. So we're all happy and in good spirits.
Congratulations, mate. And obviously that's a great effort, and hopefully you can go even better on the coming weekend. Now you know the track so well. Yeah,
and one thing to spice it up is that we're going to be doing a circuit that no V8 Supercar driver has done. We're going to do the short circuit. So usually we would traditionally turn left at what we call turn 6. We're going straight ahead this time and going into a corner that no one's done before, which is it's going to be like 130 degrees tight right-hander where there's going to be lots of passing there and lots of drivers that don't know where the braking mark is going to be. So we've got another little bit of a change with the circuit. It's going to be a shorter circuit, which generally any short circuit for supercar racing is better for the fans. There's more passing and, it just keeps the action closer.
And let's hope the weather conditions stay nice and dry, mate, because if it's slippery, it can be absolutely chaos, I reckon.
Oh, mate, we're race car drivers. We don't worry about that sort of stuff. Bring on the rain. We want more sliding, more action. And we don't want to see Penske and Red Bull winning all the races. Make it unpredictable.
Or like the Formula Ones where Hamilton just cleans up all the time.
Yeah, mate, you bring on the rain, you bring on the more, it's not as predictable. I used to race sprint cars on dirt, so sliding around in the wet feels similar to me when I used to race a sprint car on the dirt. So bring on the rain. I'm a fan of the rain weather.
Fair enough. And obviously I mentioned you're with Matt Stone Racing, your first year. How have you found racing with Matt Stone, and what's the difference between sort of driving for them and driving for Kelly Racing where you were last year?
Well, like any driver will say, your first year is always tough. You're learning to race against the best race car drivers in the country whilst trying to learn a new racing team that no one knows each other in. Like, so last year I was a rookie in a Nissan Altima and there's a lot going on in my brain. So I think the difference between me, I've matured a lot more. I know myself and my strengths a lot more. I knew what to work on in the off season a lot more with my weaknesses. And I think the car is a bit stronger too. It's a newer car. The Holden ZB is a lot more aerodynamically better in terms of downforce and grip levels compared to the Nissan Altima. So just little gains in every area just helps with getting those top 15 results this year. That is my own personal goal. And I think I think both teams have their strengths. I think the strength of this team this year at Mattstone Racing is that they've selected me to be their number one driver, which was nice because you get all the fancy bits on your car and you get all the attention from the engineers and the mechanics, which is nice for a driver. You feel like the team's got your back. And last year I was one of 4 drivers. I was a rookie driver, and Rick Kelly and Andre were the drivers that were expected to be up the front flying the flag for Nissan. So, yeah, I think the extra responsibility gives you a little bit more, I guess, it gives you an advantage in making the car setup suit you as a driver, and you get to be the team leader in terms of the drivers. I get to be that this year, which helps a lot.
And I spoke about Todd Hazelwood because, he was with Matt Stone last year and now he's moved across to Brad Jones. And one thing I found very interesting talking to him last week was the banter between the race drivers that know each other well. Has there been a bit of that this year with the Kelly Racing boys? Yeah, with the Kelly Racing guys last year, there was a bit of banter going on. I think it helps make the weekend not be too stressful. You have a bit of a dance floor session before you put the race gear on to warm up. We're not very serious at warming up. Like if you look at the Olympics and people stretching on the Olympic track or stuff like that, the swimmers, race car drivers just learn how to warm up by dancing in the trailer, like Daniel Ricciardo, if you've ever seen him. So, yeah, we're a bit weird, us race car drivers, and the banter always makes it a bit more fun because you do tend to get a bit stressed out. I think racing a supercar, putting pressure on yourself, you want to get good results, and I think having that sort of feeling where you're with your mates at the track sort of calms you down and actually helps you perform better. It depends on what sort of character you are as a person, but I know I perform better when I'm having fun and with people that I consider my mates, and travelling around Australia, being lucky to do that this year. And last time we spoke, Gaz, you talked about Chaz Mostert playing a bit of a prank on you with toothpaste. Now, have you got him back or...
Not yet. I think I just don't. I'm not natural to getting people back. I just I don't know. I'm the target, and I think that's why I keep getting tricked by these other drivers. I need to get better at that. But thanks for reminding me.
So, for the people out there, just remind us again what happened.
I was the young kid on the block, and I was trying to impress all these personal trainers and that with motorsport fitness. So I wanted to go to bed early on this training camp. It was day 3 or 4 of this 5-day training camp. And Chaz was just in a different mindset. He just wanted to have fun. And I went to bed early and I woke up on the top bunk bed with all this toothpaste in both my eyes. And I didn't know what was going on, and he just giggled and ran off, and I didn't know what was going on. It was a good stitch up.
Yeah, you got to plan something to get him back. Hey, let's talk about this year. We spoke about this off air, and it's been an interesting year for all of us, and you in particular, Gaz, because you're a Shepparton boy. You live in Shepparton normally. You mentioned before you haven't actually been home for like 3 or 4 months. You and your partner only had 6 hours to move out of Shepparton and then move to Queensland. Is that correct?
Yeah, lucky enough, I don't really need that much to keep myself occupied every day. So I packed me road bike, packed me race gear, and I packed me fiance to get across the border. And I thought that'll do. I don't need anything else. So yeah, just to be honest, mate, it's been something I'm guilty of. I've been able to travel the country this year and drive a lot through every state and get to the next racetrack. Obviously, we have rules and regulations to make sure we keep our distance with the public, but been seeing a lot of the sights of Australia. And I've been to, where have I been? New South Wales, Queensland, Northern Territory. Darwin was pretty much my favourite, I'd say, and now I'm here at Adelaide. I feel a little bit guilty, honestly, talking about what I've been able to get up to this year, because it's been a tricky year for people back home in Melbourne and in Victoria, and I get to go and race and provide entertainment on TV, but still be able to go outside. So, yeah, don't like rubbing it in people's faces too much, but I've had a good experience out of what's been a pretty tricky year for a lot of people.
Absolutely well said there, mate, and it's a credit to you. Not many people would actually say, what you've just said there, because, yeah, it is very tough. We've all done it really tough, and it's great to see, though, that Victoria now are getting their numbers down. And at the same time, we spoke about this before as well, it's a wonderful thing that, the V8 Supercars and the AFL and all these other sports are able to go this year, because imagine if it wasn't, happening, how bad people would be in lockdown if there was no sport to watch.
Yeah, mate, we'd have to take up online checkers or chess. Could you imagine a world like that? It wouldn't be very fun, would it? But yeah, like even competing on the simulator on esports was pretty funny. Like all us race car drivers at the start of the year, we were told to stay at home and don't go anywhere. And we all got these simulators, which, to be honest, between you and me, it's just a fancy word for a racing computer game. I was having the absolute time of my life, just being told to keep playing this computer game because all your sponsors are happy and all the people that pay the bills are saying, great job. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're actually happy I'm just playing a computer game? I couldn't believe it. It's been such a weird year. But, yeah, being able to compete still from a motorsport perspective online, still on TV. And then this year, as the year's gone on, we've found a way to adapt and race on the real track. We've stayed relevant as a motorsport industry, and all those people that are involved in motorsport, you know, we've been a bit nervous. We want to keep the jobs going and we want to keep the income coming through for all these racing teams that, you know, depend on paying for wages for a lot of young men and women that want to, you know, have their own goals in being involved in a sport like this, in motorsport. It's been great to keep this industry alive and still thriving.
And in the E-Series, I want to ask you guys, because I'm a bit of a dirty driver when it comes to Daytona. I just love to cut people off and just knock my friends off the road. Were you a bit the same in the E-Series? Like, you know, you target your Scott McLaughlins and these sort of guys and just try and knock them off the road?
I had to get my engineer this year to remind me that I don't have a restart button on my steering wheel on the real car, because we went through this esports championship on the E-Series and I just crashed into everybody. I didn't have a care in the world. I was like, oh, do you reckon I can pass from 50 metres back? Well, we're going to find out. Let's try and give it a go. And I'd crash into the car, and you could actually talk to each other with the headsets that we wore, and you could actually hold a radio button and orchestrate to all the drivers and all the engineers what you wanted to say to that one driver that took you out. There was a lot of aggro going on. But I actually had to tell Wes, my engineer, when I got back in the real car to say that, hey, there's no restart button. If you crash in the real car, that's a real crash.
Oh, that's great. Speaking of Scotty McLaughlin, obviously he's going for a record, 3 championships in a row. So amazing stuff that. You had a bit of a verbal stash with him the other week. Is everything okay, or do you guys hold grudges in motorsport? What's the situation there?
I'd like to think that we're okay. I think, where did I see him? I saw him after qualifying, I think you're referring to, at Townsville, and I got in his way, and I accepted that it was my fault. I went up and apologised to him straight away, and I think he respected me more for that. I think it's when you don't put your hand up and you don't say sorry and you admit no wrong that you probably lose respect in this industry. So I think, yeah, he's pretty old school, and because I went and said sorry to him and said, hey, my bad, didn't mean to do it, he knew that I didn't mean it. Yeah, we get along pretty good. We were talking about playing a bit of FIFA actually tonight. Room 231, I'm going to go as Juventus. He might go as Paris Saint-Germain, and we'll sort it out on the FIFA.
That's great. Smart.
Maybe the Mario Kart as well. You've got to keep yourself entertained here at Taylor Bench.
I love those sort of stories. That's gold. In terms of one thing we spoke about earlier on the year, Gaz, is that your family have a bus and you drive the school bus. Have you got a chance to be able to do that this year, or has that all been put on hold because of COVID?
Yeah, it's interesting. I still think it's healthy for race car drivers to keep into some sort of normal lifestyle routine. So for me, sacrificing 2 or 3 hours out of my day to drive a bus and go pick up kids and take them to school, pick them up from school, take them home, I think it was really healthy for me, because sometimes as an athlete that's involved in any sport, you can get trapped in your little mind about how the real world works and how you think the world works. And I think it was just good for me. And I've missed a lot of that this year. I actually really miss it, just having something that breaks the cycle away from being a competitive person in a competitive environment like motorsport. So, yeah, actually really missed that. So I might have to get a resume sorted out and apply for some bus driving jobs up at Queensland and Yatala, where my race team is. I think there's a bus depot across the road from Matt Stone Racing. So that'd be pretty convenient. What do you reckon?
Sounds like a plan, mate. I'm sure they'll love you regardless. So
all the things they keep saying, if you drive for us, we can sleep in, right? You can get us to school quicker. I'm like, no, I need all my points.
Oh, that's gold. And one thing I wanted to know as well, and a couple of my friends have been asking about this to find out, Gaz. Obviously the other series that come behind Supercars, your races below that, like your Dunlop series and these sort of ones. With the COVID situation, they haven't had as many races this year. How do they get the opportunity to impress so that they can push for Supercars next year or down the track?
I think it's a very relevant question to be asking, because there's a lot of kids at the moment that probably feel like their time in their career, they've been, I suppose, pinched a bit more than people that are at the top level. So they can't be on the track as often. And I think as a sport and an industry, we need to try and come up with new ways to include them in racing and give them opportunities. So I think we need to probably look at maybe having more co-driver opportunities available, like instead of what would traditionally be 3 rounds for enduro championships, maybe we need to turn it into 6 rounds so that we can get these kids in more events and cars. Because the biggest issue I see at the moment is that all the big teams, are doing their best to make sure that we keep the industry alive, and we get a little bit of support through Supercars to make sure that everybody can get to the motel and have some financial support to have those teams there. But the lower category teams, I don't know if they're getting the same support because it's such an expensive year to keep this industry alive. So we're just going to have to think of a new way to adapt to support these young drivers, and maybe an idea like this, just me and you talking about it, maybe more enduros next year, get them into our cars, we can share the race cars with them. Maybe that'll be the way to look forward.
Wonderful idea. I love it, mate. And we spoke at the start of the show about your Tigers. Have you had a chance to go and watch them live this year at any of the games?
With Richmond?
Yes.
Look, I had an opportunity a couple of times to go and watch them at, I think, Metricon Stadium up at Queensland, but I don't know. I think my responsibility as a race car driver is to keep my distance from the public and get through the season so that I don't get COVID. So, yeah, I've just been watching from a distance at home on TV. That's more than enough for me. I can still see the game. And, yeah, maybe once all the COVID numbers settle down in Queensland, then we'll start getting back to normal.
And in terms of staying, obviously, people don't realise this, but supercar drivers are super duper fit. No doubt there's been challenges this year, but what sort of things have you been doing to keep yourself fit this year, Gaz, with the COVID situation? Obviously gyms haven't always been open as well. What have you been doing to keep yourself fit this year?
Oh, it's been hilarious. If I can answer this honestly, I've been annoying the absolute living daylights out of my race team to train with me. So because none of us can get away from each other, we all know where we live. We're all at the same motel. I set the alarm at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we all go down to the motel gym together. It's only like a room that's probably 3 by 3 meters, and we try and fit 8 people in there and all together. We try and come up with whatever routine we can do with either employing a personal trainer like we are doing right now over Zoom, and I've got trainers from Shepparton that train the race team, and find some dumbbells. Like we got our backpacks and loaded them full of bottles of water to make our backpacks heavy to train in quarantine in our motel rooms. Been getting involved in the pit stop practice, not in the car, but grabbing tyres and throwing them onto the car, and running around racetracks. I've got my road bike with me, so I've taken up heaps of room. I've got 2 road bikes in the trailer here, and it's getting in the way of where all the racing gear needs to go. So, just annoying my team, to be honest, and probably using that as motivation too to let your team know how hard you're training as well. I think it's good when your team's with you and they see how hard the race car drivers actually train. It makes you want to prove yourself to your team and show that you're working hard like they are during the day on the cars. You're training hard as well. So, it's been quite inspiring in different ways.
Well done, mates. And, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you again on Legends of Bevo, Gaz. All the very best with the Bend this weekend and for the rest of the season as well. And looking forward to chatting to you again in the future in person once this COVID situation's over and when you're back in Adelaide again.